Silksong boss tier list. I actually meant to do this back in November, right when I finished playing the game, and I just kind of let it slip through the cracks. Now it's been 3 months, and I barely remember anything about it. So, great time to do it instead. I am going to be ranking all 44 bosses in Hollow Knight Silksong according to their difficulty. I thought about ranking them based on how much I like them, but I'll just be talking about that anyway as I go through them. So, they'll be ranked by difficulty. So S tier will be the most difficult bosses in the game, all the way down to F, least difficult. I just thought this would be kind of fun to do. We're going to start off, I'm just going to start off with the order that they have it, so I'll just be going in kind of nonsensical non-order. Moss Mother, this is the very first boss in the game. We're obviously going to put them in F. They're like barely a boss. I think I beat them in like 30 seconds. Could be wrong on that, but yeah, it's kind of a tutorial boss. Not really meant to be anything more than that. Lace. Lace is one of the early bosses that you come across in Silksong, and I kind of have a little bit of a warped view on her. This is the first time that you play against them, I think. I assume that there's other... because you fight Lace 2 other times. I assume that they have 2 other entries. Yeah, Lost Lace is at least on here. Well, we'll just treat her as this is Lace 1 for now. And I kind of have a unique experience with her because I fought her way later than I think most people do. I actually had to go back to Deep Docks to fight her. I think after I went to Hunter's March. It was pretty late. So I'm actually pretty comfortable putting her in C. I didn't think she was particularly difficult at all, but I also fought her a little later. Bell Beast, although I would give Bell Beast an S tier in cuteness, that's not what the tier list is for. We're going to put Bell Beast in D. It's a little more difficult than Moss Mother, but has a very clear pattern and very easy to get through overall. Fourth Chorus, this is maybe your first major boss that you come across. It's in the Far Fields, I believe. And I'm going to put Fourth Chorus in D behind Bell Beast, actually. I think Fourth Chorus is really, really easy. A lot of the damage is based on just kind of jumping up and hitting it, you know? And then, like, don't fall in the lava. So I did not find Fourth Chorus to be difficult at all. I think they took me maybe 2 tries. But, yeah, I mean, these are all really early bosses. So I actually think that there's a bit of an order to this that I'm kind of getting behind. Savage Beastfly. Now you fight Savage Beastfly a couple of times. I don't know how I'm supposed to factor that into my rating, because the first time you fight Savage Beastfly is in what do you call it? It's in like an arena. It's inside. And then the second time you fight it, it's outside, and there's lava involved, and it's much more difficult. I would be comfortable putting Savage Beastfly in B tier, mostly because of that second fight. I don't really feel like moving Lace, even if we include the second Lace fight, because I didn't think that the second Lace fight was that difficult either. Skull Tyrant. We'll go ahead and put Skull Tyrant in high F tier, because Skull Tyrant, you fight Skull Tyrant twice. The first time is kind of in their native habitat, and the second time is when they destroy the town. And it's basically just like, you know, they're a big bull in a china shop, they're charging around, and you just kind of gotta hit them. So, a pretty simple boss there. Sister Splinter, probably the most difficult boss to that point in the game. I would put Sister Splinter in low B, below Savage Beastfly, but above Lace. Sister Splinter, there's a lot going on in the Sister Splinter fight, and it's a little overwhelming. I think it's probably the most complex boss fight to that point, if not the most difficult. You have to keep track of Sister Splinter's vines that hang down and their mobs that they unleash, which mobs are something you kind of have to get used to in the Silksong bosses, but Sister Splinter's kind of the first one that has that up until this point. Mobs that you have to deal with. And so I think, like, if I were to fight Sister Splinter now, it'd be no problem. But you kind of are getting used to the game at that point. I'd feel comfortable putting her in low B or maybe high C, actually. But I think just from how many times I attempted it, low B would make sense. Widow is the first true skill check in the game. Widow is by far the hardest boss to that point in the game, and I think it's fair to say that even overall, I would consider Widow a fairly difficult boss. I will put Widow in A tier. I did attempt Widow many times, probably like 20 times or something like that, 30. I don't know. I fought Widow a lot. Also, the first boss, I think, to this point in the game that had 2 phases, and the second phase is distinctly more difficult than the first. You kind of get into that pattern with Widow where you cruise through the first phase, but then the second phase gets you every time as you're learning the boss. And I like that I really like Widow. If I were to rate this on fun, I'd put Widow in S tier. One of the most fun boss fights in the game, definitely. There's only a couple that I liked more than Widow in terms of fun. I would say Last Judge and First Sinner are the only ones I can think of offhand that would be above it. But in terms of difficulty, I think A, and I think it's going to be kind of low A. Just because, it's not because Widow's not a... I think in a lot of other games, Widow would be like an S tier boss, but Silksong bosses, especially some of the late game ones, are really difficult. So, Phantom. I fought Phantom kind of late in the game, and I would put Phantom, let's see, I'd put Phantom above Sister Splinter, but below Savage Beastfly because of that lava variant in Savage Beastfly. Phantom actually a very fun boss fight with a great ending. I actually kind of just spammed the buttons through the QTE, but there's supposed to be like a dramatic QTE that you hit. So even with ruining it though, I had a fun time with Phantom. Phantom's a really fast-moving sort of duelist boss, and I found Phantom to kind of scratch an itch that Lace did not for me. Phantom's very fast, teleporting and jumping around, and I mean, Lace kind of does that, but Phantom's just kind of like a more cracked version. Morwing is a boss that everyone was warning me about, and again, I fought Morwing really late. That's kind of how it happens when you explore a lot, like I was doing. Morwing, I kind of cheesed, so I don't think I got the full experience of Morwing. But, you know, out of respect for what I've heard, I'll put Morwing in high C. People were telling me that I had an easy time with it because I had upgrades, and, you know, you're supposed to fight Morwing a little bit earlier, so but I can't really attest to that, right? Because that's not how I fought them. Great Conch Flies, annoying boss, however, fairly easy overall. I put them in high D. They're in the leftmost region of the map. I honestly don't really remember that much about them, and you fight the Conch Flies so much after that it's all kind of blurring together, all the Conch Fly fights that you have in Silksong. But I put them in high D, I think. Alright, Last Judge. Some people have told me that they rage quit the game at Last Judge. They didn't get past Last Judge. I actually think Last Judge, one of the most well-designed bosses in the game. If I were to rank them on fun, I'd put them in S tier. I think I really like Last Judge as a boss fight. I like the phases. I like the fire waves. I like that they have an attack for when you're far away, an attack when you're up close. You've really gotta use your full toolkit with Last Judge, and it's a perfect end cap for chapter 1, for act 1 of the game. And if I were to just rank on fun, I'd put S tier. I think I would actually put Last Judge below Widow. In A, I put them in low A. Once you figure out their pattern, you actually don't have to be that quick with Last Judge. I feel like with Widow, even when you know Widow's pattern, you have to be a little quicker with it. You have to time things correctly. With Last Judge, if you know what's coming, once you figure out what's coming, there's a very clear-cut, easy way to dodge each attack. You can say that for all the bosses, but I feel like Last Judge gives you a lot of time to dodge things or to with maybe the fire wave attack standstill is often how I was getting around that. I think that Last Judge is a difficult boss overall, but really the main challenge is just learning their patterns. So, yeah, I really like Last Judge. I would put them in S tier for just fun, but for difficulty, low A. Cogwork Dancers. This is kind of the same thing with Last Judge, but to a much lesser extent. Cogwork Dancers, they kind of tell you exactly how they're going to move each time they do it. There's a big line that appears of like, hey, we're going to go this way, we're going to go that way. And they get faster as it goes along, and it took me a couple of attempts, but overall, I think I would have to put Cogwork Dancers. Again, if I were to put fun, I think I'd put them in A, because it's just a really fun, like, patterned, rhythmic fight. You've got kind of this, like, clockwork theme of, like, dang, dang, dang. And it really kind of gets you into a trance, in a groove, when you're playing against them, almost to the point where you're like, oh, I don't want this to end, but I do want you to die. So, Cogwork Dancers, I'd actually put low C, above Great Conch Flies, just because sometimes you can get lulled into a false sense of security with Cogwork Dancers. At least I did a few times, where once you get off pattern, I think it can be very easy to take a lot of damage suddenly and dangerously. But most of the time, I mean, if you're on it, you're gonna be dodging every attack, not taking any damage, and it can feel really easy. But if you get off rhythm with Cogwork Dancers, they can be a little dangerous. So I put them in low C for that. Out of D tier. Throbio! You know what? In terms of fun, I put Throbio in F. I hate Throbio. I hate his stupid voice. I hate his stupid theatrics and bravado and everything. I just hate him as a character. He's just stupid. I can't stand him. Unfortunately, a fairly difficult boss. Fairly difficult. I would put Throbio, and this is the original version, right? Is there? Yeah. Okay. There's another version of Throbio that's later. I would actually put Throbio in high B. I would put them under Last Judge, but it's actually, the difference between these is not that much. I just don't think he's an A tier difficulty boss in the overall scheme of things with Silksong, so I put him in high B. It didn't take me that many attempts to get through. There's just a lot. It's almost like a bullet hell fight, more so than a lot of the other bosses. He's got projectiles, and he's always throwing stuff out. Sometimes there's a lot of times in the fight where he's not on the screen, and you're just having to dodge things that he's throwing out there while he's completely protected. And it's like, well, if this were real, why wouldn't you just do the whole fight like this? Anyway. Throbio, Cygnus, and Groan. Cygnus and Groan, the battle starts off... Doesn't the battle start off with just one of them? I can't remember. I do remember that the battle gets a little more fast-paced as it goes along, and I had a little trouble with it. It's more like I just need to find the right tools. This was around the time when I was like, oh, I really need to find the right tools for this fight. And this is around the time where the game was also starting to require that a little more. So I would put Cygnus and Groan low B. Under Sister Splinter, I think when you have like tacks, for example, they become a lot easier. At least that's what I remember. So I put them in low B. I find them kind of forgettable overall. They're not quite duelist enough to be a duelist boss. There's two of them. They're almost like two mobs a little bit. Yeah, I think in terms of fun, I'd probably have them low ranking, but in difficulty, sure, B-. Groal the Great. Okay, here's my controversial take on Groal, one of my least favorite bosses in Silksong. So I don't think that Groal is actually that difficult of a boss. It's just that he comes right after the arena, and so it takes a long time, in my opinion, for you to master the arena, and then you have to get through Groal after mastering the arena. The ideal way to fight Groal is starting off, you know, net neutral, like you would start every other boss battle, of like full health, you know, full silk or close to it, with all your tools and resources intact. So if you can get through the arena, which, you know, after enough practice, you can get through the arena without using any of your silk, at full health, ready to go for Groal, but then you have to learn Groal's moveset, and you've got to pair everything together. So it's more of like a battle of attrition than anything else. With that said, the maggot water does make it really difficult. I feel like Groal, again, he's kind of a slow-moving boss. He spends a lot of time just kind of floating around, begging you to hit him. He's a big target. I don't think that, like, tactically it's a difficult boss, but it's just everything surrounding it. You know, you fall into the maggot water, you get maggots on you, you have to waste silk getting rid of them, or you just truck through it in some cases. I would actually put Groal, I'm going to put Groal high B, and again, this is kind of deducting some points for like, well, the boss himself is not that difficult. It's like you gotta do the arena beforehand and the maggot water, and I just don't know if I can give him that many points for the maggot water. I realize that like Savage Beast Fly, I'm kind of giving them a little bit more points for the lava, but you know, you have like disappearing platforms in that fight, and I just feel like the environmental hazards are kind of more the point there. With Groal, it kind of feels tacked on. It's just like, oh yeah, and by the way, maggot water, you know, you shouldn't fall into the maggot water at all. Whereas in that second Savage Beast Fly fight, I don't really know how you're supposed to get through that without falling into the lava at least one time. It's like, you know, sometimes when I was fighting Savage Beast Fly, the platforms were totally gone, and it was just lava because they hadn't come back yet. So, yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's just my opinion, but I put Groal high B. The Unraveled, I would actually put the Unraveled pretty low. I would say low D. I don't know if I can put them quite Skull Tyrant Moss Mother level. That seems so disrespectful. I believe I did beat them first try though. They have mobs that kind of just, you know, they kind of just go back and forth sometimes, and you know, they're just not that big of a threat overall. Disgraced Chef Lugoli, another maggot water boss. This one, again, you've got to defeat 2 mobs before you can fight the actual boss, but that's not that big of a deal. I think this was kind of like my first encounter with the maggot water, and it was like I'm trying to like kind of counter that with how good I got at the game towards the very end, you know, fighting the hardest bosses in the game. No spoilers, but Carmelita, First Sinner, ones like that, you know, you kind of look back at Disgraced Chef Lugoli and you're like, well, that wasn't that bad after all. So I would put Chef Lugoli actually in B tier. I would put Chef Lugoli under Savage Beast Fly, but over Phantom. I think that I probably had more trouble with Lugoli than most people did. I don't know what it was about it. I think it was, you know, they're constantly flinging stuff with their ladle, and I just didn't do very well with that. So this is probably more of a me thing than anything else. But I'll take that. First Sinner. Okay, we're putting First Sinner in S tier, and S tier for fun as well as for difficulty. First Sinner is kind of like a Widow on crack. First Sinner has that speed and that velocity behind their attacks that Widow has, but it's kind of ramped up to 11 in the First Sinner fight, and I love everything about the First Sinner fight. It feels like a duelist fight. It's very much one-on-one. It's very quick. The First Sinner has many different types of attacks. They're all quick. They require you to dodge them, you know, right as they happen. There's no really lead up time as big as like the Last Judge. It's really a big test of your claw line in this fight. I remember the first couple times I played against First Sinner, I was like, what is going on? I'm getting my butt kicked. This thing is insane. And then once I figured out, oh, you use the claw line to close distance, because that was the big thing. First Sinner like appears and disappears, appears and disappears, appears and disappears. And I'm like, how am I supposed to hit this thing? Well, the answer is with the claw line, which you get not that far before this from what I remember. But it is, I think, the first fight out of any of these that really demands that you use the claw line. With the rest of these guys, I mean, maybe Throbio is another claw line fight. But I think I beat Throbio without claw lining too much. First Sinner is the one that's just like, yeah, if you don't use the claw line here to close the gap and get a couple cheeky hits in, you're just not going to beat them flat out unless you're a god. So I would put First Sinner S tier, one of the most fun boss fights in the game, possibly the most fun. This might be my favorite boss fight in Silksong, and one of my favorite boss fights in video games in general. I just really liked it. It was very, very good. I love the fast pace. I love the high stakes, the quick reflexes. It's like everything that I really like about a Metroidvania boss fight in particular, like a 2D arena style battle. It just kind of perfected that. So yeah, loved First Sinner. Cragler. Are we even going to call this a boss fight? It's just kind of like stand underneath a platform and then jump up and hit it when you have a spare moment. I'm putting Cragler high F. It's like I got killed by Cragler a few times early in the game when I was just like, how much HP does this thing have, and I just didn't quite have all of the mobility tools that you need, all the dashes and, claw line, stuff like that also can help here. You're just not quite as mobile early in the game when you first encounter Cragler. And then you can come back and kick its ass, though. But with that said, I have to give it points for, killing me a few times. Certainly better than Skull Tyrant and Moss Mother. I just don't feel like I can give it D tier. I want to disrespect it so badly. Father of the Flame. This one took a few tries for me. It's a weird one because you don't... Like, everything about the boss is stationary. So it's a very much a vertical fight where you've got to get up, and what I found success with was hitting the top parts first, the top targets first. Because you kind of have to use the projectiles to get higher from what I remember. It's a little vague for me, but it was a little difficult until you figured out the correct strategy for it, which is the case for some of these bosses, but especially for Father of the Flame. The thing that helped me the most was when Father of the Flame hits the second phase, you can throw down the electric tools that do a vertical beam, and I just kind of spammed those once I hit phase 2, and they died very quickly. So the fact that you can cheese it that easily makes me not want to put it any higher than like low C. I don't think I can put it Great Conch Flies tier, sorry, but yeah, C-, that sounds reasonable. Oh boy, Carmelita gotta be here, I think. High S, Carmelita. I don't think this is gonna be a hot take at all. This is gonna be a pretty cold take. Carmelita, hardest boss in the game. I'll be going through the rest of them, making sure of that, unless there's somebody that I'm just not remembering. Carmelita, the hardest boss in the game, took me many, many tries. But with that said, I don't like her. She's not as fun for me as First Sinner, Widow, or Last Judge. I would put all three of those ahead of her in terms of fun, but she's certainly the most difficult. I do like that eventually you figure out the correct strategy with her. It's another claw line fight in a lot of ways, but she's just got so many attacks that you have to dodge, and the window for dodging, especially her projectile attacks, it just makes you feel really cool to jump up and dash through 2 of the projectiles that are making an X formation. That's just really fun. That feels very Matrix style. So I give her points for that. She's got, does she have 3 phases? Now the 3 phases are basically, they're very similar to each other. She's just faster at it, and I think she adds 1 new move per phase. I might be wrong on that. And she's like stops doing like a shitty move from a previous phase that was easy to dodge. So she does get harder for each phase, but she doesn't go, with a different moveset, really. Carmelita, though, very fun boss. And the hardest boss in Silksong. Probably the hardest boss in Hollow Knight, outside of, like, God Home stuff, outside of, like, masochism. Voltverm. Voltverm. Oh man, this boss, man. I'm putting them high F. They were easy. Did they even move? I'm trying to remember. I think they moved. Well, I think they kind of moved, but they kind of just sat there and let you waste them. So I hate to say I'm putting them in Craggler, Skull Tyrant, Moss Mother tier. Raging Conch Fly. I do not remember this. Hang on. I'll look it up. I don't recognize it just based on that picture though. I need to see it in action. Okay, Raging Conch Fly. Okay, am I getting this mixed up with the Great Conch Flies? You know what? I'm actually gonna take this out because I must have fought it because I fought every boss in the game, but I don't remember. There's, like I said, there's like a certain amount of conch fly fatigue after a while where you're like, I fought this guy so many times. Second Sentinel, kind of the easiest duelist boss in the game. I actually kind of think Second Sentinel is harder than Father of the Flame, harder than Cogwork Dancers, harder than Lace. That's a tough one. I actually don't remember that much about Second Sentinel, personally. I think mid-C is like a reasonable level for them. Broodmother, one of the most annoying boss battles in the entire game. Just the sounds that they make, or whatever it was. It's just so distracting having to fight a boss that does that the entire time. So for that, I really want to just put them in F tier just to troll them, put them below Moss Mother. But realistically, I did have a little bit of trouble with them. I would unfortunately have to put them, I think, above Sister Splinter. There's just, they used up a significant amount of the screen when you're fighting against them. It was kind of a claustrophobic fight, and I think as much as I want to take away points for, you know, the environments and stuff, and not really them, I think I gotta put them in mid-B tier, sadly. Bell Eater. I barely remember Bell Eater. It happens, was it after Act 2? At the beginning of Act 3, you fight Bell Eater, and it's sort of like an upgraded Bell Beast fight. I'd probably put them in B, honestly. I'm starting to put a lot of them in B. I might put them high C, actually. I'm kind of inflating Morwing's rating because people were like, you got really lucky with Morwing. You fought them late. They kicked my ass over and over again. I'll put Morwing as king of C tier for now, and Bell Eater just below them. Plasmified Zango. I mean, we're gonna have to put Plasmified Zango in F tier. They kind of just explode plasmid around them and walk around. I'm gonna put them. I'll put them above Craggler, but that's the most I'm willing to do. Below Voltverm, which is pretty bad. Tormented Throbio. This is the upgraded version of Throbio, and unfortunately, a much more difficult version. It's sort of a souped up Throbio with even more bullet hell. So many projectiles, you really have to concentrate with it. I'm gonna put them at high A. I'm tempted to do low S. In terms of enjoyment, I'd put them down here. I just don't think it's a fun fight going through bullet hell like that, but I'll put them in high A. It is a difficult fight. I'm just kind of hesitant to give them that compliment. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's got all the annoying parts of Throbio, plus some. He's purple now. Crust King Kong. I would put Crust King Kong, honestly, S tier in fun. It kind of reminds me of Cogwork Dancers a little bit, in that the moves are very clearly telegraphed, and that makes it kind of fun. You feel like more. It's great from an RP perspective because you kind of feel like you're embodying Hornet's like spider sense, if you will, and being able to like sense what they can do, and so you feel like you're kind of getting Hornet's skill in fights like that. I would put Crust King Khan, honestly, higher than Cogwork Dancers, higher than Second Sentinel, but below Lace. I think Crust King Khan, overall, cool boss, very fun, but pretty easy. I'm just not willing to give them more wiggle room than that. Shrine Guardian Seth. This was actually a pretty tough one. Yeah, one of the harder duelist matches, and I think part of that is just because, like many of the duelist fights here, one of the biggest problems with Seth is that he's just not around for you to hit a lot of the time. He's teleporting, going, he's over here, he's over there, he's over there. And so it is a claw line fight in that sense. I would put Shrine Guardian Seth, I think, low A, just from what I'm remembering about him. Again, it's been 3 months, far removed. I might put them above Last Judge, actually. I think Last Judge is... You don't have to be as quick to dodge their attacks, so I put them there. Yeah, Shrine Guardian Seth. A fun boss battle overall, I guess, but yeah, definitely A tier on that one. Nihilith. Nihilith is an annoying one, mostly because of the environments. It's just all environmental hazards. You have to cling to the wall the whole time. Other than that, I mean, I don't really like the boss design that much. They've got that attack that's basically the entire screen enveloped in a yellow orb of damage, but you just have to claw line out of it or dash out of it if you're in the middle of the screen, and you have to spend a lot of time during the Nihilith fight searching for the right window and kind of waiting around a lot. I feel like you wait around in the Nihilith fight more than in others, and in phase 2 when the floor just collapses, I feel like you spend most of your time just avoiding environmental hazards and less time kind of figuring out or actively hitting the boss or dodging the boss, and more just spending time on environmental hazards. So I do want to docket points for that. Not a ton, though. It is an easier fight than Groal, I think. I think Nihilith gotta go mid B for me. I'm gonna put them below Phantom. I think that's fair, though. Pale Stag. A Pale Stag, Pale Stag just kind of floats around the map, and then you have these projectiles that go across the screen, and you get like a hit in here, a hit in there. I found Pale Stag to be kind of an annoying fight. I want to put them higher than D, actually. It feels like they're an easy boss that I had trouble with. So with that in mind, I would like to put them low C. I found them annoying in terms of fun. I'd put them in like D or F, but difficulty, I'm happy with low C. Clover Dancers are kind of part 2 of the Cogwork Dancers fight. It's a little harder than Cogwork Dancers, so I have to put them above, but I don't think I could do it too much higher because, I don't know, it's the same fight in a lot of ways. It's very similarly telegraphed and everything, but it is just slightly harder, so I don't think I can put too much of a distance between the 2 entries. I did like Clover Dancers less than Cogwork Dancers, though, and I kind of wish that they had done a little more to differentiate the fights. Pinstress. I had a really easy time with Pinstress, frankly. I feel like the disrespect of putting Pinstress in D tier is too high, though. Or is it? I might want to put it there. Pinstress, though, dude. I think Pinstress might be a C tier boss fight, like low C. I think right here. Well, maybe higher than the dancers, lower than second sentinel. Is that fair? Yeah. Lost Garment. Lost Garment I had a pretty easy time with. Lost Garment just kind of runs around and explodes dark stuff everywhere. Put Garment in D tier. I think the worst thing about it, the most difficult part of the boss battle is seeing his friend afterwards, mourning him. So that's more difficult than the actual boss battle. Gur the Outcast, one of the last bosses that I fought in the game. Just kind of a nothing burger. I would be happy putting Gur as King of D tier here. Pretty easy fight overall. I don't remember much about it. I remember there being spike traps, and other than that, Gur was just kind of running around letting me hit them freely. So, yeah, fine with that. Let's go. Watcher at the Edge. Watcher at the Edge is another one that I fought kind of later, I think, than I was supposed to. But they also were a little more difficult than I thought they would be. I was a little surprised by that. Watcher at the Edge. I kind of want to put Watcher in C. I don't know. I'm thinking Watcher at the Edge. You know what? I might put them in D. I might put them in D. Because it's like, I do remember dying to them, but I died like really stupid deaths. There were deaths that were because I was doing a bad job of it. I'll put Watcher above Gur, though. That feels bad to have Gur above. Yeah. Higher than Gur. But I think all the times that I died against Watcher were kind of my fault. And so I'm happy to own up to that. Crawfather. Crawfather, pretty bad. I think I beat Crawfather first try. I'll put Crawfather above Great Conch Flies under Lost Garment. Yeah, kind of just a goofy boss. This one I never fought. Summon Savior. I think that's for Steel Soul mode. So I'll just put that back down. Never fought them. Chakra. Did I fight Chakra? I did. It was because it was an optional battle. It's like when you went back to Greymore, there was a little Chakra's little stand was there, and you could ding it, and they would come fight you, and you could fight them over and over again. I would put Chakra, actually. I'll put Chakra low B. Chakra was a quick boss. A lot of quick moves. You had to move, fast to, let me just move this over a little bit. Right there. You had to move fast to get out of the way of Chakra's attacks. So it was kind of a good reflex check. Not one of the hardest duelist fights in the game, but it's up there. I did not fight Garmund and Zaza either because I fought Lost Garmund instead, so I can't actually rank that one. All right, we've got two more. Grandmother Silk, the final boss, as it were, but not really. Grandmother Silk reminds me a lot of fighting the Radiants in the first Hollow Knight, and I'd feel comfortable putting Grandmother Silk higher than Last Judge, but honestly, lower than Shrine Guardian Seth. I didn't find Grandmother Silk to be that bad. The hardest parts were, again, like she's just kind of floating in the corner of the screen, and you've got to dodge her swords and stuff, and you're just like, I want to get to you and get like one hit in. So you had to go through, little sequences sometimes where you just have to accept that you're not going to hit her. Or at least that's how I played it. But it didn't take that many attempts. I think Radiance, honestly, a harder fight. But I'm also wondering what Radiance would be like if I went back now when I played through it. So that's also the question. All right, last boss of Silksong, Lost Lace. So I'm going to tell you right now, Lost Lace at the very least in A. I think I had to put Lost Lace in S below First Sinner. Lost Lace is the true end boss. I don't know if I had as much trouble with Lost Lace as most people did. I might actually put Lost Lace above First Sinner. No. I think I gotta give it to First Sinner overall. And it's not because First Sinner is harder than Lost Lace, but that Lost Lace is easier than First Sinner. Does that make sense? I hope that does. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but I just feel like Lost Lace was kind of... It was a clear number 3 for me. Definitely not harder than Carmelita. Harder than Tormented Thrabio? Now I'm wondering if it was even harder than Tormented Thrabio. I'm trying to remember. I might actually move. I hate to do this, but I might put Tormented Thrabio in high in low S, because I'm thinking back to it, and I remember being more frustrated with Tormented Thrabio than Lost Lace. I would put Lost Lace in high A. This feels better to me. It's there's a couple phases to it. It reminds you a lot at first phase of fighting Lace again, which I didn't have much trouble with. But then once you get to the later parts of the battle, there's a lot more happening. There's explosions and there's big waves of darkness and stuff that you have to dodge. But even with all that, I didn't feel like it was that difficult. I mean, I'm still putting them in high A. I think they're harder than Widow, Shrine Guardian Seth, Grandmother Silk. Definitely harder than Grandmother Silk because it has similar vibes, right? Yeah, Lost Lace overall, high A. I feel like this works for me. Okay, so let's go through it. S tier, I've got Carmelita, First Sinner, Tormented Thrabio in that order, and I feel very happy with that. A tier is Lost Lace, Widow, Shrine Guardian Seth, Grandmother Silk, Last Judge. If there's anything that I'm a little unsure about here, it's Shrine Guardian Seth. I don't know if he should be here or here. He might... I don't know. I do remember having more trouble with him than I expected when I first encountered him. Like, it took more attempts. I think on, like, attempt number 7 or something like that, I was like, I kind of thought that I was figuring him out. But it took a little bit longer than that. But yeah, Groal the Great, I'm confident. I'm happy with them being king of B tier here. The B tier, very large. Groal, Thrabio, Savage Beastfly, Lugoli, Phantom, Nihilith, Broodmother, Sister Splinters, Cygnus and Gron, and Chakra. Yeah, I think Groal right here, it's like as high as I can put something that most of the frustration is external of the boss. You know, the arena, the environmental hazard, the maggot water, right? Kind of the war of attrition aspect of it. I think that Groal is definitely B tier. So, some of these guys, this B tier is sort of like this boss is harder than it should be tier with Savage Beastfly, Broodmother in here, and I kind of think of Phantom weirdly in mid B as kind of like a litmus test or like a demarcation of like anything above this was frustrating for me, and anything below this, like they were frustrating, but not really the boss's fault. More just like external factors, like Nihilith and Broodmother. I feel like the arenas were really the issue more than the boss. So, but Phantom was a great boss battle, and it was, mano a mano. So, I kind of put them as like the gatekeeper here, mid B. C tier, Morwing, Bell Eater, Lace, Crusting King Khan, Second Sentinel, Pinstress, Clover Dancers, Clockwork Dancers, Father Flame Pale Stag. These are all bosses that I would term, quote, kind of easy. Not like a cakewalk, but didn't have that much trouble with them. D tier, Watcher at the Edge, Gur the Outcast, Lost Garmin, Crawfather, Great Conchflies, Bell Beast, Fourth Chorus, The Unraveled. I think around... Well, Watcher I feel kind of bad. I feel like Watcher could be C tier. I feel like Watcher at D is kind of disrespectful, but also I fought them very late. They were one of the last bosses that I fought, so I had a full toolkit against them. Fully upgraded and everything, so that might have been part of it. It's hard to judge, though, I would have to do multiple playthroughs of Silksong and be like a Silksong YouTuber to give a more comprehensive assessment of Watcher. And then F tier is the trash tier. I mean, Voltverm, Zango, Kragler, Skull Tyrant, Moss Mother. These are all like either tutorial bosses with these two, or they're just, I mean, there's just really not much to them like these three. And yeah, I think that'll do it for my Silksong boss tier list. Phew, I'm finally glad. I'm glad I finally got around to doing this. It was, you know, I went through every boss in the game. I fought all these guys. I fought Raging Conchfly. I just can't remember. I can't remember anything about them. Garmin and Zaza, I didn't fight them, but you can either fight them or Lost Garmin. I don't think you can fight either. Or both, rather. And then Summon Savior is Steel Soul mode only. So, other than that, I fought everything, and I feel, you know, what's the point in fighting every boss if you're not going to rank them? Maybe I'll replay Bloodborne soon and do the same thing. That could be fun. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be nice. Thanks. See you in the next one. Think critically.